Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this webinar on building trust in collaborative partnerships. Some of you know me through my technical assistance work with Rural Health Innovations and the National Rural Health Resource Center. I'm the program manager for our network TA team. Over the past 5 years or so, RHI has worked with over 250 rural health networks through the written program, some of the network planning grantees, the HIT Workforce Training Network Program, the Allied Health Workforce Training Network Program, and the Network Development Programs. And this past fall, we hosted a network summit to explore the role of networks in the changing healthcare landscape. And one of the key roles that the participating network leaders identified was convening and engaging stakeholders. This role of health networks speaks to the fundamental work of networks, bringing partners together to achieve a common goal. Bringing partners together to achieve a common goal has many names: networks, collaboratives, consortiums, partnerships, and cooperatives. But what these forms of working together all require is one key attribute. All of them hold together through trust. Trust is a key element in successful relationships, and it isn't always easy to attain. This presentation on collaboration is core to our work in supporting networks, and it supports our efforts in collaborating and innovating to improve the health of rural communities. I'm happy to be here with you today, and I'm looking forward to exploring this challenge of building trust in collaborative partnerships. To start off today, we'll be reviewing some basics of collaboration and how it's relevant to your work. We'll then talk about how credibility is a combination of expertise and trust. We'll also go into the differences between high trust and low trust relationships. We'll spend a good amount of time talking about the different behaviors you can develop within yourselves, and we'll end our time together by starting your individual action plans for building trust in one of your network relationships. There is an accompanying worksheet for this presentation, and it is available in our resource library with this recorded presentation. The content follows along with my presentation, including 5 lessons and some activities, and ends with an action planning activity. There is space for you to make notes and complete the various activities, and through my presentation, I'll make note of what lesson we are on and reference those activities and page numbers. I'll have a pause in the presentation so that you can follow along with those worksheet activities. So in your worksheet, we're on lesson 1, page 4. There are all sorts of contexts for the concept of collaboration, but in our discussion today, we'll mostly be talking about collaboration in the context of the work you're doing with your network members and your community partners to improve the health of your communities. This is a definition of collaboration from the Wilder Foundation. Collaboration is a mutually beneficial and well-defined relationship entered into by 2 or more organizations to achieve common goals. Well, the Wilder Foundation goes on to say that the collaborative relationship includes a commitment to mutual relationships and goals, a jointly developed structure and shared responsibility, mutual authority and accountability for success, and sharing of resources and rewards. A lot of activities for collaboration to be real and effective. Well, as rural health networks, even though the particular focus areas of your grant projects vary, the bottom line is that your efforts seek to improve the health of the populations you serve. While we are in the midst of shifting our paradigm of care from volume to value, we have growing awareness and increasing effort invested in bringing many partners from the community together. And we as networks acknowledge that we are one of the solutions to improving population health, because our function is to bring partners together for effective solutions to complex problems. I am describing why investing in this effort of successful collaboration is so important. We all want to ensure our collaborations and partnerships are as successful as possible. So in Activity 1 within your worksheet on page 4, consider your network's projects and partners with this question. What are some of the current needs of your network that would benefit from collaboration? Or another way to ask this question, what are some activities your network is working on that would benefit from or require a collaborative effort? Go ahead and make your notes directly within the worksheet. And while you're thinking about that, of those ideas for collaboration, I want you to pick one of those situations to consider in more detail. Make some notes. Briefly describe the collaborative opportunity. And keep your situation in mind as a practice scenario for the rest of this workshop. Now we are in Lesson 2, so on your worksheet, page 5. Some of your opportunities will call for high levels of collaboration, while some others may only require a basic level of collaboration. There are 3 main degrees we'd like to point out here so that you can begin to consider the time and resources each stakeholder will need to contribute in order to achieve your goals. So for cooperation, it requires the lowest level of effort and complexity, such as sharing information, sharing space or services, or sharing equipment. Coordination requires more commitment and may involve some integration on the part of the stakeholders. Coordination might include, for example, sharing administrative services or staff, subcontracting, sharing training programs, and joint programming. Partnership is the highest degree of collaboration and involves substantial effort and complexity. Examples of full-scale partnership include formal agreements, affiliation, business agreements, and management contracts. For Activity 2.1, which is in the bottom half of page 5, think about the collaboration opportunity you identified earlier in Activity 1 and consider this question. Which degree of collaboration is required in that scenario? Cooperation, coordination, or partnership? Go ahead and make some notes within your worksheet. Knowing which degree of collaboration we need in a specific situation can help us better manage our network efforts and commitments. Turning to Lesson 3, in their book, Credibility, How Leaders Gain and Lose It and Why People Demand It, James Kouzes and Barry Posner described their research that found credibility is directly linked to both expertise and trust. Leaders who demonstrated high levels of both were considered credible. We're considering credibility to help us ferret out the nuances between trust and expertise. In your worksheet on page 7, we'll talk through this credibility matrix. You can take notes of behaviors that describe each of these quadrants and specific situations that come to your mind. Thinking through this matrix will help us continue to explore our understanding of what trust looks like. So starting in the lower left quadrant, low trust and low expertise, one would notice that an individual in this quadrant was usually unprepared, or they used a lot of fluffy talk without too much detail to back it up. Moving to the right, low trust and high expertise, a person in this quadrant would be perceived as smart, but also overly competitive, or one would have a perception that this person is manipulating them or taking advantage. The person would be respected for being right and intelligent, but their motives may be questioned. Next, let's move diagonally up to the left, high trust and low expertise. The person in this quadrant of the credibility matrix would be perceived as easy to work with, but not very competent. They simply don't have enough knowledge yet to be credible no matter how enthusiastic they are. And finally, moving to the right, we hit the sweet spot. High trust, high expertise. Leaders in this quadrant are perceived as being responsive, calm, able to understand and explain themselves. They know what they are talking about and perceived as capable. This activity brings our attention some behaviors that describe how we perceive trust. This awareness will help us notice our own behaviors as well. So now on to lesson 4. In your worksheet, we're on page 8. A lot of research has been done on collaboration that identifies trust as a key factor of successful collaborations. The Wilder Foundation found that mutual respect, understanding, and trust are important membership characteristics for success, and that collaborative groups should allow sufficient time for trust and understanding to develop in order to be successful. And the Center on Collaborative Governance at the University of Colorado, Denver, also found that trust is considered the key to good collaboration. Additionally, Stephen M.R. Covey explains in his book, The Speed of Trust, that having high trust makes execution easier and improves results, whereas low trust hinders execution and can cause results to suffer. For instance, high trust environments demonstrate growth, innovation, loyalty, and a team-oriented focus, while low trust environments often show disengagement, redundancy, defensiveness, slow approvals, and hidden agendas. In activity 4.1, I'd like you to think about someone you have a high trust relationship with. What's it like to work with them? Go ahead and make some notes within your worksheet. For my example is my team, where there is a high trust environment. This looks like team members giving each other the benefit of the doubt, expecting good motives, and assuming the best. And we get a lot of work done together. On the other hand, think about someone you have a low trust relationship with. What's it like to work with them? Make some notes within your worksheet. For my example, there is a project that I've been involved with where folks were always questioning the reason behind a suggestion, or people were worried that they were being taken advantage of. This caused a lot of wasted time and not very much got done. I know that my personal experiences demonstrate significant differences in the kind of work getting done between high trust and low trust environments. And research shows that yes, indeed, high trust relationships bring a bump in value to an organization or collaboration, and is therefore, I reason, worth the time and effort needed to build high trust relationships. Within Lesson 5, there's a complete list of 13 trust-building behaviors. So far in this presentation, I have been asking you to think about circumstances or individuals that have displayed or demonstrated trustworthy behaviors. And I've been making the case that having high trust relationships is valuable and worth the effort, as it has a significant contribution to the success and sustainability of a network that is working to convene and engage partners and stakeholders to achieve common goals. I want you to now shift your thinking from observing trust behaviors in others to reflecting on your own trust-building behaviors. Stephen M.R. Covey identified these 13 behaviors that increase trust in our relationships. Covey's key idea is that you don't have to change who you are. Just change your behaviors and let actions speak the language of trust. So with activity 5.1, let's run through each of the 13 behaviors. I'm going to go through these 13 behaviors pretty quickly. I have 2 ideas to present to you for each one. First, I will describe what this behavior might look like. Those are clues that can be observed. Then I will also present ideas on how someone might seek to get better with the behavior. And while we're going through the behaviors, you can reflect on your own skills and abilities. And within your worksheet, give yourself a score for each of the 13 behaviors. Give yourself a 1 when you're perhaps worried that I may need to work on this particular behavior. Give yourself a 2 if you're thinking, I'm doing okay, but I could use some practice. And a 3. Everything is good to go with this particular behavior. This acts as an informal assessment so that you can go back and reflect on the behaviors that you can improve on. Let's go ahead and get started. Sometimes talking straight can be very difficult, especially if something has been heading off the plan or expectation and you are anticipating the information will be a surprise or create conflict. What does talking straight look like? I think it looks like being honest and telling the truth. But how do we get better at this? Well, I would suggest planning for the conversation and practice if you anticipate the conversation to be difficult or perhaps emotional. And be committed to the idea that being honest is more important than being wrong. And honor confidentiality so that when people are talking straight, they're not worried about that information going someplace else. We all know how this feels when we are on the receiving end and both experiencing respect and experiencing disrespect. So what does demonstrating respect look like? Behaviors and actions are things like showing kindness in the little things, asking for opinions and perspectives, being prepared and timely, and making joining the conversation easy. Well, how do we get better at demonstrating respect? Perhaps engaging in a cultural competency training, being mindful of body language, use your very best listening skills, and use participatory facilitation techniques. Create transparency is another trust-building behavior. That is, behaviors that demonstrate we are trustworthy. So what does creating transparency look like? It looks like stating your intention and admitting your mistakes, using inclusive communication and consistent protocols. Having information be available to all participants and being transparent about the times that you can't be transparent. Well, how do we get better at this behavior? My suggestion is for you to allot enough time for everyone to consider the information and clarify questions. Set clear objectives and use of the information that is being shared. And seek an attitude for yourself of sharing to replace an attitude of winning. The fourth trust-building behavior is righting your wrongs. What does this look like? Well, everyone makes mistakes. It's what you do when you make the mistake that matters. Show humility and ask what you can learn from a situation, and apologize and seek restitution quickly. How do I get better at this? If I have an inkling of being wrong, then I follow up and ask the person involved. I'm a proactive apologizer, and I practice apologizing, acknowledging the wrongdoing and stating how it will be remedied. I ask for input, and I also reflect on the situation. If it is complex and there are diverse opinions, then I consider using crucial conversations. These trust-building behaviors are behaviors we need to be really good at and intentional about. Showing loyalty is a trust-building behavior. Jim Collins uses the concept of the window and the mirror. Jim Collins is the author of the Good to Great book, which I would recommend. Well, when things are going well, he says, look out the window to give credit. And when things don't go as planned, look in the mirror and see how you can be changed. Also, speak about others as if they're in the room and share that credit. How do we get better at showing loyalty? Be aware of others and how invested they are in the situation or the project or the risk that they are taking in participating. Be accurate in your meeting notes and avoid surprises for your partners, keeping participants informed. Delivering results. For this trust-building behavior, what does it look like? I think it looks like being on time with deadlines, establishing a track record of doing what you are meant to do, and seek clarification on priorities so that you can shift things around and meet the end results that is expected. And how do we get better at this? Be sure your project has enough resources to get the work done. Share your timeline successes so folks know when you are delivering results. Use time management techniques and tactics to increase the probability of success. And be clear on priorities and be willing to pull an all-nighter every once in a while to deliver the results that people are expecting. What does getting better look like as a trust-building behavior? Perhaps seeking professional improvement and feedback so that you are getting better all the time at the work that you do. And develop new skills rather than relying on existing ones. How do I get better? I'm humble and open to learning. I also practice listening with an intent to learn and shift towards being curious and away from being defensive. The eighth trust-building behavior is confront reality. What does this look like? Addressing tough issues directly and early. Separating the issue from the person and asking for facts and data as well as opinions. Asking the question, what might be missing? How do we get better at confronting reality? I would suggest allowing enough time for planning and analysis, get really good at using data for decisions, and if an issue is complex, use a facilitated process or discussion, increasing the probability that reality can be confronted. Clarify expectations is a trust-building behavior. What does this one look like? State and restate expectations and not assuming that the expectations are known. Clarifying expectations before, during, and after a conversation or project. Be straightforward with expectations of your project with those involved. Well, how do we get better at this? Well, be aware of your participants' background and knowledge and their perceptions. And be aware of the different roles that your participants hold. Learn about cultural differences and set aside or design time in meetings to identify or explore expectations. The 10th trust-building behavior is practice accountability. This looks like holding yourself and others responsible for agreed-upon behaviors and processes. It looks like tracking progress and also clear assignment of who is responsible for what. To get better at this, practice clear communication of assignments and actions. Make action lists easily accessible. Share the ability to update your progress tracking and identify clear consequences. Listening first is a trust-building behavior. It looks like demonstrating understanding of others before speaking and asking if there's anything else to add before moving ahead. Getting better at this trust-building behavior could include practicing not forming solutions during listening, slowing down and don't interrupt. Practice asking open-ended questions. And learn about the ladders of inference by Chris Ardress, helping us to not climb the ladder of inference, but stay in that data until ideas are clear. Keeping commitments is a trust-building behavior. It looks like saying what you do and doing what you say. State what you are committing to and clarify commitments to others. We get better at this by being realistic with our resources, using clear language with our commitments, and with some commitments, you need to understand the options for revising that commitment or priority so that you can continue to keep it. The 13th trust-building behavior that Covey shares with us is extending trust. What does extending trust look like? Looks like sharing authority, inviting others to work on a project with you, letting people know you are depending on them, and encouraging new ideas and open discussion. We get better at this by practicing patience, being okay with different approaches, and knowing there are a lot of right answers. So in lesson 5, on page 9 of your worksheet, in activity 5.1, as I've been going through these 13 trust-building behaviors, I hope that you've been making notes to yourself, self-assessment of your own trust-building behaviors. Let's take a minute to reflect on our personal behavior trust inventory. Which of the 13 behaviors do you currently practice or feel that you're really quite good at? Those are the items that you had given yourself a score of a 3 while you were doing the assessment. You're good to go on those. But which of these behaviors do you know you could practice and get better at? Those are the ones in this list of 13 trust-building behaviors that you gave yourself a 1, that you're worried that you may need to work on this one, or perhaps a 2, where you're thinking you're doing okay, but could use some practice. Spend another minute making some notes for yourself as you consider your own inventory of trust-building behaviors. So now, within your worksheet, we're looking at the action planning section. The first thing to do is to consider the situation. Assessing the situation is important, and I'd like you to take a few minutes to consider these questions. Think back to the situation you identified earlier as an opportunity for collaboration in your network. Of the stakeholders involved in that scenario, pick one person you'd like to increase your trust with. Since we know that collaboration is more successful when there are high levels of trust, focusing on improving trust among stakeholders can give your scenario a better chance of success. And demonstrating your own trustworthiness as a network leader sets a precedent and helps create a culture of collaboration within your network. So specifically ask yourself, what is my credibility with this individual? Does this person see me the same way I see myself? Have I an opportunity to show this person who I am? And then consider several more questions. What does this person know or think about what I do and how I do it? Are there trustworthy behaviors of mine that this person does not know yet? How can he or she learn about my commitment, honesty, loyalty, or accountability? Think about your answers to those questions and jot down your notes. On the bottom part of page 10, we want to plan for action. So this continues our personal action planning. Think about actions you can take to help increase the level of trust with this particular person. And here are a few questions for you to consider. What can you do to understand this person better and help them understand you? What commitment can you make to this person that would showcase your trustworthiness? Which of the trust-building behaviors can you better demonstrate to this person? Go ahead and make some notes within your worksheet. Now that you've got some brainstorming done, you can start developing your trust action plan. On page 11 of your worksheet, you could document your plan any way you want, but a chart like this might be helpful to organize your actions. For each idea you select, think about your overall goal or objective, the specific action you can take in support of that goal, and when that action should be worked on or completed. Make sure to set aside time every now and then to review your progress and make notes about the results of each action as time goes on. And of course, add your new ideas to the plan as the relationship develops. Holding yourself to an action plan is a way of getting better and practicing accountability, which are some of the trust-building behaviors we've been reviewing. This type of exercise can be useful anytime you hope to work with a new stakeholder group, and when a new partnership is getting off the ground, or even just when you'd like to strengthen the existing relationships within your network. As you think about your plan, as you think about your grant project, you may want to create trust action plans with timelines that coincide with items in your grant work plan and with the milestones you hope to achieve during your project. Go ahead and jot down your ideas for now, and you can type up a full action plan later using the accompanying worksheet. If you're interested in more information on some of these topics, there are a number of places you could start. We do have recorded presentation and materials and collaboration available on our online resource library, which you can reach through the link above and on this slide and searching your terms. We mentioned a few books on collaboration and trust today that provide some good foundational knowledge, and if you'd like to read more, go ahead and check out those books. Also, if your network would like to dive deeper into assessing and measuring your collaboration, the Wilder Foundation provides an online collaboration assessment. It's free and easy to use. And the University of Colorado, Denver, has the Partner Tool. It is a bit more complex and time-intensive, but offers a nice structure for analyzing and mapping network relationships. Both of those tools can help networks identify where their collaborative strengths are and which areas would be good to work on for improving the success of your collaboration.